Hi there, this is Dr. Embody, and we're going to take a look at Project 2, maybe help you a little bit with it. I'm going to do things a little differently than I did with Project 1, in that I'm going to show you less, but I'm going to show you a little bit about the process involved here. We're looking at controls, so we're going to have some if statements, because there's decisions to be made, and we're going to have a while loop, because we have to do things repeatedly. So with that, let's take a quick look at the project itself. And what we're doing is we have, this one is just a little bit of a puzzle. And what are we going to do? We're going to add all the digits in an integer, and if the sum is more than one digit, we keep repeating until we get down to one digit. So if you start with 2, 3, 4, 5, it has the sum of 14, which of course is not a single digit. And so we now take 14 and we do the same, add up its digits. Now we got 5, that's a single digit, and so we stop. At the bottom of the programming project, we have a little sample run here, and here it is. We say input an integer, we put in a 35, and then we add the 5 and the 3, and we get an 8. Now you notice how that's reversed. I didn't tell you what order to do those in. It turns out it's easier to do them in that order. So 5 plus 3 is 8. Adding the 5 and the 3 out of this number, we've got a single digit. We're done. Okay, so let's take 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, as we showed earlier, that adds up to 14. That's 2 digits, so we take the 14. That is the 4 and the 1. Add them up, we get a 5. Now we're done. How about a bigger number? So here's just some outrageously large number. It adds up to 88, which of course is 2 digits, so we have to repeat it. 8 and 8 add up to 16, still 2 digits, so we have to repeat it. And then finally we have a 6 and a 1 and a 7, and now we're done. So so this is a process that involves multiple steps, and an important thing in terms of problem solving is how do you handle this? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this, and my notes suggest that we're going to break this project down into multiple steps. The first is, if I have a number, I just want to print the 2 numbers, the 5 and the 3. Forget about trying to add things together or anything like that. Let's just extract out the 5 and the 3. And as I point out in my notes, the percent operator and the double slash operator are your friends here. And I'll show you in a moment how to play around the shell to figure out what's going on there. So that's the first thing to do. Just print those. Then, as a second step, we can build on what we have, so the important thing here is we're taking this and we're making it into problems that we can solve. Okay, once you've played around with the percent and the double slash, printing out the 5 and the 3 is relatively easy, but make sure that you have that in a while loop, so you can do numbers of with a lot of digits in it. Okay, so once I have that done, and by the way, you might as well print them on the same line, because you're going to have to print them on the same line, and that the print statement has this end equals, so rather than having a carriage return, you can put something like a space, or maybe we can even put a plus in there. There's different kinds of things that you can do. So the next thing then with this is let's write the 5 and the 3, and at the same time, the next step that I did was let's find the sum. As we're generating those numbers, let's add them together. Now the process of doing something like this is you want to start with something, and I will call it sum with 2 M's. It turns out that you probably don't want to use you want to get in the habit, don't use the word sum by itself. It turns out Python has a sum function, which is kind of handy, and it's probably best to not use that. So I just put an extra M on there, sum. Okay? And the idea is that outside of your while loop, start with that having a value of 0. You have some kind of a while loop, blah, blah, blah. And inside here, you will, every time you find a digit, add its value on sum equals blah, 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 plus something or other in here. And in this part, we find the digit. So we find the digit, and then we add it on to our sum, and then you can print it at when we're all done with this. So notice the pattern here. We start with it being 0, and we keep as we find the digits added onto the sum. And that's one of the little tricks of programming. Right? Start with being 0, and then every time we find a digit, add it onto the sum, and at the end we'll have it. So again, practice it with some, test out your code, so that it works with a 2-digit number and a 4-digit number and maybe even a bigger digit number, and so on. Okay, so that was the second stage. Let's once you got that working and all tested out, now we have to put the pluses in there. So you put the plus in there, and then you put the equals in there, and print out the sum. Okay, so we've done this in stages, right? And each one of these stages is a small increment on top of the other. Now the tricky thing here is that between you have plus signs between everything, and then you need an equal sign. Well, somewhere in there you're probably going to have an if statement. And there's really 2 ways to do this. One is you can print these out as you go along, which is a nice way to do things. The other is to cheat and peek into the next chapter. And in fact, you can do this as collect everything up into a string and then print it out later on. If you like to look ahead, you might give that a try. So this is all what I've talked about at this point does just one of these lines. All right, so you get your program so it could just handle one line. Give it a number, it'll print out the digits, add it up. Then once you got that working and all tested out, then you can actually look at the question of, now I have a 2-digit number, and I need to keep going. And what it turns out is what that means is that you're going to need another while loop. While for some Boolean, blah, blah, blah. Do your addition. All right, so we end up with a while loop wrapped around the initial while loop. And by the way, once you get this initial one working, under the drop down within Spyder under Edit is a little button. You highlight it, and you can select indent. It indents the whole thing, and that's pretty handy. Okay, so let me show you how this manifests itself. But first, so those steps that I just described, they're all under the assignment notes. Okay, so as with many other times, leave the error checking until you get everything else working, and then the first thing I do is say, well, just print the digits, okay, and then and then print it all on one line, and Then after you've done that, you can print the sum. Okay, and now you have that. Then you can wrap a while loop around what you have, and now you can go and think about the error correction. All right, let's take a look at some code here. And what I've done is I've actually hidden the code, and I want to I've hidden the program itself. But first of all, let's take a number. What do I mean about playing in the shell with this? So we'll take a number, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, and I said, oh, play around with percent. Well, what happens if I take my n and I do %10? I get a digit. And notice which digit I get. I get the digit that is the rightmost digit. So it's a lot easier to peel off the 6 than it is the 2, and because it's addition and the cumulative and associative properties work. I don't care what order they're in when I go and add them. So go ahead and do that. And I also mentioned the double slash operator, so play around with that and see what that does, and then hopefully that will give you ideas as to how to take a number and get a series of digits. And let's take a look at one of those. So I have my program, this digits program, and I will run it. Right, enter a positive. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right now, all this program does is, at this point, that's the first step, is it prints the digits. And does them in reverse order because we just saw that it's a lot easier to get the least significant digits off. So it does the 7 first and then the 6. And as it strips them off, it prints them. So I got that working. Oh, and by the way, that works with lots of. I can do it with long numbers. I can do it with short numbers, and so then I know I can test it out and make sure that it's working. And then the next stage was let's find this enter a number, and not only do I print the digits, but let me print the sum. So 1, 2, 3, 4, it adds up to 10. Great. And I can test that out with longer numbers, and yes, that also works. I did 1, 1, 1, 1 just because it was easy to add up. Okay, so now I can print the digits and I can find the sum. Let's take the next step. Okay, so at this point, let's also print them. Okay, so we will run this thing again, and 2, 3, 4, 5, and so it prints the 5, the 4, the 3, the 2, with the plus signs in between and the equals. Yeah, I'll play around with it a little bit to get that working. But now I can do the whole first part of this, and then and now I can do one sum. And if it has a 2-digit, now I have to think, okay, so how do I recognize that it has 2 digits? How big a number is it if it has 2 or more digits? That will give you a clue as to how to set up your Boolean. Oh, and I mentioned that you can indent. Oh, I have to highlight. Let's highlight. No, let's go over here and highlight something. There we go. If I highlight something, I can indent, and that's all right. So with that, good luck.